Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Gaines. Thanks for clicking the video, and today we're talking about Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart on the PS5. Now, this is one of the big titles I've been waiting for on the PS5 because this is one of the first ones that's not only a Sony exclusive, but it's also a PS5 exclusive. Now, Miles Morales was a really great game on the PS5 and definitely showed what the console was capable of, but seeing as it had that PS4 version out there, it always makes you wonder what was held back from the PS5 version because Sony doesn't want the PS4 and PS5 versions to be too different of a play experience. So we don't have that with Ratchet and Clank, and this game really showed a lot of what the PS5 is capable of, especially early in its life cycle when developers are still feeling out the console and figuring out what they can and can't do. Also, little tricks of the trade to where maybe they can get more out of the system than what they previously thought. All right, so not to have the intro too long, I want to talk about graphics on this game as well as the gameplay. And also I want to talk about any bugs that I might have encountered while I was playing the game. And then finally, just a likes and dislikes about the game in general for my complete playthrough of Ratchet and Clank. For anyone who doesn't know, I did platinum this game as well as 100% everything you can do in the game. So I wanted to make sure that I was very, very in-depth with the game before I decided to review it. That's why it's not out here day one or earlier than day one. I know there's some channels who get early codes. We obviously are not one of those channels. But thanks for clicking and stay tuned. Alright, so here's the game running in the Performance RT mode, which Performance RT is just the 60 frames per second. Plus it also includes some ray tracing as well. And even in this mode that's based more for performance with the frames, it's still a beautiful looking game, albeit you don't get the huge amount of reflections that you will get in fidelity mode. And here's fidelity mode. Now fidelity mode is for those who just want it to be the most beautiful game that it can possibly be, albeit you will be locked at 30 FPS, so performance does take a slight hit, especially in certain areas, but this game does look amazing in fidelity mode. I mean, you're talking a bunch of different reflections, just lighting everywhere that really accentuates a lot of the areas in this game that you won't get with the Performance RT mode. Now these areas here when playing on fidelity really show off all of the different lighting and all the different reflections that can be seen in this mode that you do get with the Performance RT mode, but just not to that same extent, and it really doesn't make those environments pop as much as on fidelity. And when you do switch over to fidelity, you will notice the difference. Areas outside of battle is really where fidelity and Performance RT mode are almost one and the same, and you can barely tell the difference between the two, if you can tell it at all. As you can see in this scene here at the bar, both of these modes are almost identical, where you get a lot of the same lighting and shadows that you would in fidelity. You're still getting that on Performance RT. Gameplay can really be summed up in one word: amazing. This game is super fluid, it's super smooth. Now for me personally, I played through on Performance RT because I wanted the 60 frames per second instead of the 30 FPS that you're locked at on fidelity. And with Performance RT, you really do get about 90 to 95% of all the beauty and all the lighting that you would get on fidelity, but the difference between 30 and 60 is really night and day. And a game fast paced as Ratchet and Clank, especially when you're in battle sequences where there's a lot of enemies moving around, a lot of different gunplay happening, 60 FPS is really what you want to experience this game in. And speaking of the speed of the 60 FPS, this game is super fast when it comes to load times. There's very rarely you will ever notice the game is actually loading because it does a good job of hiding those load times with transition screens, whether you're going from one location to another or even slight little cutscenes that would happen between things. And it's not like they take a long time. We're talking 3 to 5 seconds. If there was ever a game you wanted to use to show off the power of the PS5 SSD or the console in general, this would be that game. This game just really loads up extremely fast and also has a super long draw distance to where you're not worried about pop-in. I didn't experience any pop-in whether I was playing on fidelity or Performance RT. Everything was already there. We didn't have any load-ins or any blurred images, kind of like the door on Final Fantasy VII Remake. None of those things happen. The game just always looks beautiful. It's always ready for you anytime you're ready to play. So I really only experienced one major bug. I did experience a couple glitches, but one major bug, and that's crashing. Now this game never crashed on me a lot, but when it did crash, it super crashed. I mean, black screen to PS5, you can't quit the game. You can't even power off the PS5. You literally have to pull the cord out of the PS5 just to get it to turn off so that you can restart the game. Now granted, my save data was intact, so there was no issues there, but I did have to redo some stuff just because the save states in this game is kind of wonky as well. You don't always know when the game just saved, and checkpoints are kind of hit or miss. So whenever your game does crash, you may have to redo stuff, but other than that, that was the only major bug or glitch that I encountered. Now for the slightly funny, albeit sometimes a little bit of a headache ones. Right here, I was playing on fidelity mode, and when you hit this warp stone, I got stuck in an out of bounds area. Instead of it warping me to the next part of the stage, it decided to put me out of bounds, and I was just stuck here for a while. It ended up having to reset the game in order to try it again. Luckily, there was a checkpoint right before I hit this warp stone, so I didn't lose any progress. Now for the last glitch, this one was just kind of a funny one. I didn't even realize that this was a thing. But in this area, you're not supposed to have any weapons. They take your weapons before you come in here. But when I was in here getting some gameplay footage for another part of the video, I loaded the last checkpoint because whenever you change the display of the game from fidelity to performance RT or just performance, the game makes you reload from the last checkpoint. It just so happened the checkpoint was still inside of this area, and when it reloaded me in, it gave me the pixelator gun. And I was just walking around shooting things, seeing what I could actually pixelate. This guy I actually pixelated right here. He ends up just staying a pixel. Like, he just becomes a pixel statue after a while. So I don't know like what's going on with this. I'm sure the game really didn't expect you to ever have a weapon in here, and why it decided to give you the pixelator out of all guns, I don't know. I just thought it was a little cool glitch. Thought I'd show it off, and maybe if other people want to do it and mess around, they can. So I actually want to start off here with the dislikes, and then we'll wrap it up with the likes. For dislikes, there's actually nothing really bad about the game that I didn't like. It was just a few things that I wished was either in the game or maybe they had done a little differently. There was a couple guns. I'm not going to name the guns so that I don't spoil anything for anybody, but there was a couple guns in other Ratchet and Clank games that I was hoping would make a reappearance in this game, and it didn't. Again, that's not really a deal breaker, just something that I wish that would have came into the game. Another area I kind of disliked about the game was the whole save function. This game doesn't have a way to actually manually save, so you're completely dependent on all of the autosave points in the game and wherever the game decides to checkpoint you, which sometimes can be spotty and you would think that it's saved, but it didn't. And that can be a little bit of a headache at times, especially when you die, or if you do encounter any of the glitches that I showed earlier, or if your game crashes. So I wish that there was an option for you to manually save. Hopefully that might get added in an update. And the last thing that I really disliked about the game was really from more of a completionist standpoint. There was a lot of trophies that I felt like should have been added to this game that wasn't there. Like, there's not a trophy for beating the game on the hardest level or on challenge mode, so it really makes you wonder, why would you even play it on those levels, because it doesn't give you much. Also, there's no trophies for leveling up your guns completely. Again, that's kind of something that you would expect from a game like this, that you would have to do that in order to platinum the game. The trophies really seem very easy to get, and I would say that I 100% completed this game in about 12 to 14 hours, whereas you really only needed to start a second game for one weapon. I just wish they had a little bit better trophies. They made it a little more difficult than what it was. Again, being kind of nitpicky, but those were the areas that I did dislike about the game. Now for what I liked about the game, I actually just liked the game itself. This game is really beautiful. Like I said, it loads super fast. Everything is fluid about the game, especially when you're playing on performance RT and getting those 60 FPS. It does a great job of actually staying true to the Ratchet and Clank series. It's just a really great game overall, and honestly, to me, it probably feels like the best game out so far on the PS5. That could be more so because it's a PS5 exclusive, and like I said, it's not having a PS4 title kind of weigh it down, and it's being able to actually do everything they want to do without having to worry about doing too much with a PS4. Wouldn't be able to at least handle a portion of it or something similar to what they're trying to do on the PS5. But it's a great game. If you have a PS5, I strongly recommend that you go get this title. Even if you're not someone who has been playing a Ratchet and Clank game in the past, you're gonna love this game. It's a really great game if you love fast-paced action adventure games with some shooters in it. Perfect game for you. And if you're a fan of the Ratchet and Clank series and have a PS5, I don't need to tell you to get this game, because I'm pretty sure you've already gotten it and enjoying it just as much as I have. So with all that being said, like I said, go get the game. If you don't have it, it's a great play on the PS5. I appreciate everybody for sticking around throughout the review. And if you like the video, please like the video, subscribe to the channel so you can catch what we drop next. And as always, be easy, be blessed. Peace.